Every successful woman eventually faces fear, but not the kind of fear that like stops you, but the kind that signals growth. But a lot of times we just think of it like, this is a negative thing. But it is something that is just saying you are expanding. Right now I'm doing something completely new. I'm writing and performing a one-woman show. I'm not performing it yet, I'm performing it later. But honestly, it's equal parts terrifying and thrilling. And as I get off recent Zoom meeting with my one-woman show coach, it got me thinking, like whether you're scaling your business, you're stepping out on a stage as a speaker, or maybe you're finally launching that next big idea or product or book or whatever it may be, growth always comes with a little fear. And so that's why on this episode, I'm talking about do the thing that scares you, why growth needs a little fear. In this episode, I'm sharing how high achieving women like us can use fear as fuel, not a stop sign, right? We're going to use it as a way to step into bigger confidence, bigger creativity, more impact in the world. And, I'm doing this play, this one woman show. I'm a in a zone, in an area, in industry where I in one side feel completely different, even though I've spoke on hundreds of stages to massive audiences. But being on there as an actor putting on a play, it feels raw, it feels personal, and it's stretching me. And so in this one, I'm going to talk more about this using my examples, but also talking about how every successful woman really hits this crossroad where comfort, it feels safe and it's nice, but it also feels small and you're like craving something more. And that was like the spark that writing my own one woman show I needed, right? I needed that expansiveness. And so for women entrepreneurs, for leaders, growth doesn't just come from more strategy, more work, more hours. It comes from courage. And it is going to give you some really great stories. So if you've been playing it safe recently, this is just your reminder. This is maybe a calling for you. Your next level is waiting on the other side of what scares you. Hmm. So keep listening. I'm going to talk about, why this happens and why we get fearful and the benefits of it, but also the problems that can come from it. So first off, fear is just a sign of expansion. It means that you are just in this place of growth, right? You're in some new territory. So if your bubble is like this and you start to leave it into something new, your inner self, your body is like, danger. Fear means stop. Fear means we're in trouble. But actually, you can't grow and expand and come into new territory without growth. And fear usually is telling us that we are going out of that zone, but you're safe, you're okay. And being in the presence of fear, just because I'm afraid in some ways of writing this, and it's an industry I don't know the terminology of it, I don't know famous actors or great one person shows. I don't have that expertise, that knowledge. It doesn't mean I'm failing because there's parts that make me nervous. It means that I'm expanding. And I've said that a few times, but I want to keep repeating it because I want you to know it's like, right, when you're growing your muscles and there's a little bit of pain, it doesn't mean, well, sometimes it means you've hurt yourself. I know that. But most of the time, it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It means that there has been some growth and some progress that has been made. So the show, yeah, it's terrifying me in the best of ways. Will people come? Will I forget my lines? Will people leave mid-show? But that's how I know this is the right next thing because I care and it's helping me to feel alive around it rather than apathetic, complacent, whatever kind of happens when high achievers get to that kind of that peak or that success level. So fear is proof that you're stepping into that unfamiliar territory, and that's good because that's where the next level lies. But did you know that moderate fear actually increases your focus, your creativity, and your motivation. I know when I'm driving, if I ever like something comes in front of me unexpectedly, I'm like, whoa, whoa. And now I'm extremely alert, extremely focused. And when you're in that heightened, increased focus, creativity, motivation, it's actually going to push you into higher performance states. If you've been in sports or if you've done maybe presentation shows and stuff, you know that feeling right before you have to be on. And I'm sure everyone can remember the feeling of an interview right before you go into the interview, like, oh, how it feels, right? So being scared is just the next step. That's what I'm viewing it as. It's just telling me that I'm on the right path rather than being like a red flag. It's actually a green light saying, go, move forward. This is good for you because it's building your confidence mindset, right? How confident and courageous you feel you are, and it's leadership development, right? So not only are you expanding yourself, but you're learning how to regulate that fear. This is going to build some more emotional mastery, emotional resilience. And I'm not saying like tomorrow I'm going to just go and say I can fill a 700 person theater and do my show or pitch to Netflix. I'm doing the steps that make sense for where I'm at. So, my fear threshold. Now, in the past, I have done some pretty wild things physically, jumping out of a plane for skydiving or jumping off a bridge, doing bungee jumping. I've also done some things that made me feel scared, like going to the States for my first keynote or pitching a bigger coaching program, right? There are times when I have felt that like inner freeze of like, can I do this? And when I first sat down to start writing part of my show, my inner critic was super loud, right? Who are you to do this? And what if it's not good? And how are you going to fill a theater? And or what theater is going to pay for your show? And then I realized like this voice just shows up when I'm doing something new, when I'm doing something that matters, when I do something that stretches me. And you're going to have those saboteurs that start barking at you and saying stupid things that aren't true, but we can pull some truth nuggets from it, right? Who are you to do this? So that's like, what expertise do I have? And I'm going to be like, well, this is what I can pull from it. And what if it's not good? Well, I'm going to make sure it's good because I care. So when I launched my business, when I've published my books, when I've spoken internationally, fear has always been there a little bit. It's just like wearing a new outfit. You put it on for the first time, it's like new, it's different, and you feel the fear, right? But then afterwards, it's like an accessory every time I get on stage. I still feel a bit of that fear. And I was speaking with one of my speaking colleagues, my coaching colleagues as well, yesterday, and she said, "Oh yeah, before I get on stage, every time I feel a little bit nervous." And that's the like feel the fear and do it anyway. So that lesson I hope you get from this so far is fear isn't that stop sign. It's just a signal that you're standing on the edge of your next breakthrough. And this is actually a value of mine. I love that, like, oh boy moment, the like, whoo, can I do this moment? Like when I went to go skydiving and the plane door opened and I looked out and I was like, oh, can I do this? Or when I was on the phone with a women's conference and I sold 350 copies of a book I hadn't written yet. These are those moments of like, ah, can I do it? Can I do it? And it's exciting. It's almost like that thrilling excitement of a blind date or going and traveling somewhere you've never been. And so there are so many benefits, if you haven't pulled them up yet, there are so many benefits of facing what scares you. And I'm not talking about a fear of spiders or snakes, or for me, I have a fear of deep water. But just facing any fears that you have in your day-to-day life or your business life or things, goals that you have. When you can face the fear, I'm not saying even overcome the fear or get on the other side of the fear. But even just facing the fear helps you to reclaim confidence or build your confidence. Because every time you try something new, you're building that self-trust that, like, okay, I can do this, I can go for it, and not even thinking about the outcome, right? But it reclaims and rebuilds that confidence. It also builds emotional strengths, right? So you stop being controlled by fear and you start directing it. So when I go to do a talk and I feel that fear, I have to channel it into the right energy. Otherwise, my mouth is dry, my hands are sweaty, my armpits are sweaty, and I'm freaking out that I'm going to forget the words. So instead, I got to channel it into great energy so the audience feels comfortable as well. It also will spark creativity for you to use that fear, right? So new challenges are going to bring out those new ideas and those new perspectives. And then the last piece that really for me, after being in coaching for 14 years, 15 years, for being in the working world or being an adult for what, 28 years, something like that, it starts to restore that fulfillment. And so if you are someone who is a little bit further on in your career or a little bit further on in life, you're going to maybe feel like, ho hum, things are kind of the same. And so instead, it starts to restore fulfillment, right? Growth is going to reignite passion and purpose when success starts to just feel routine. And so even though I might think, well, I'm going to be on a stage with an audience in this one woman show, it's very similar to keynoting, it's very similar to my facilitation or my workshops. The idea that it's different is exciting, and I'm being drawn towards it. So for you, if you're a female entrepreneur, a leader, this is how you can stay magnetic, innovative, inspired. Because as I'm talking to people about, like, yeah, I'm writing a one-woman show, people are like, whoa, that's so cool. Tell me more about it. And I'm coming up with all these new ideas that were limited. I felt like I maybe couldn't do them in a keynote. So I'm thinking now of costumes, props, cool lighting and other tech things that I can bring in. So it's helping me to be innovative. And I'm so inspired. If you can tell by how I'm talking right now, because I just spoke with my one woman show coach for the past like hour, and I'm so pumped. And so maybe I'll just, before I jump into why we avoid fear, maybe I'll just use this moment to just kind of tell you where I'm at. So I had this kind of spark, this idea by seeing one of my fellow CAPS members, Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. She actually did her keynote in a theater. And so it was maybe seen more as a show rather than a talk, which kind of was exciting. And then there's another guy in CAPS who's gone on tour, and he's built a whole bunch of cool promo-y things around his talk, and I thought that's really cool as well. And then I went to the Global Speakers Summit in, where was it? Bali. And in Bali, when I saw one of the speakers, he's wearing costumes and he's kind of developing this world, and I was like, wow, this is exactly this is exactly what I want to do. Like, this is so much fun. And so since then, I have taken the one person show class, learned about that, and I've taken one or two writing courses to be able to do that. And I just spoke this week to a local theater, and I'm going to probably join their artists community and for a year and enter that world. And then hopefully January, late January, early February, I will do my first like show preview. So if you want kind of more updates on that, we're going to set up a link so that you can get on a specific list or a specific community to get updates on the show and what's happening and everything, so you can kind of follow along in that journey if you'd like. I'd love to have some people supporting me, because as I'm talking about it, it is a little bit thrilling, but also a little bit terrifying. So why do we avoid fear? Well, it's terrifying. But maybe you are afraid of failing publicly, right? You don't want to fall on your face. Maybe you're afraid of losing credibility because you've already built this business or built this career, and by doing something new or something that brings some fear, you maybe are going to look inexperienced or like you're not the expert that you are being portrayed as. Maybe you don't even care as much about like messing up, but you don't want to be judged, right? Like, what would people think if this flops? What will people say if it doesn't work out right? Maybe it comes from you have this illusion right now of safety, right? And so I'll do it when I feel ready, when I'm at that point. And you want to stay in your little safe bubble and so you don't step out because you're waiting to feel ready, but you're not going to feel ready unless you start working towards it. So there's no way a one woman show script is just going to show up on my plate. There's no way that I am going to have the expertise of actually acting and using all the tech, all the lighting and sound and video and everything in a theater until I actually do it, right? So many high achieving women, they unconsciously trade expansion for comfort, right? Especially if you have kids and you have other things going on and aging parents, and you're just like, I just want to kind of stay here and stay comfortable. But safety, stagnation can feel almost identical. So if you're in that place of like, oh, is this it? Is this all? Is this all I have? Why am I not happy? It could come from that safety, from that comfort, from things being too much the same. It can also, on the other side, come from lack of satisfaction. I can talk about that in other ways. But when we bring in something that's a little bit thrilling, it can help us to feel like life is new. If we stay where we are, if we don't face our fears, if we don't step into things that are new and thrilling, then we could have invisible burnout, right? We keep producing, we keep making results happen, we keep the output, it's still going, but we're not growing. And so it just, there's nothing life-giving to it. There's no resonance. There's nothing that gives you energy and fuels you. And so if we're still producing, but we're not growing, it's really hard to do that. The next thing is you might feel resentful, right? You might feel some resentment. You might feel like, "Ugh, I'm boxed in by this success that I've built." Have you ever looked at someone who is doing one thing in life and then all of a sudden they're doing this other random thing over here? Like we think maybe Jillian Harris, who was on what, The Bachelor or Bachelorette. And so she was doing this over here and now she's over here. And then she was doing like home design and she's on a home show. And now she has these like Jilly boxes or something, subscription boxes. And I've seen her as a speaker on a panel. It's like she wasn't contained by, oh, she's only the bachelorette and that's all she can do is be on reality shows around relationships. She expanded into other things, which probably scared her, right? I also remember Martha Stewart, when her and Snoop Dogg did that show together. Like, whoa, that was her way off in a different area. I get that she was in prison, and so maybe that makes sense, but it she wasn't boxed in. And that's the thing I have loved about different famous people and performers is that they never kind of held themselves to the image and to the resume that other people had for them, right? They got into other things. And if you avoid fear long enough, it's going to just start to feel like this is my limit. This is where I'm at. And without the growing, you're not going to be able to continue to live your purpose in a strong fashion. Your passion is going to be depleted and you're going to know that you're capable of more, but because you're kind of stagnant in that place, because stagnation is another piece of it, you're going to get stuck doing just what it works for you, but you're going to lose excitement because there's nothing that's going to come next. That's why a new restaurant every once in a while or a new beverage. That's why everyone maybe gets excited about pumpkin spice lattes when they come out every autumn. So do the thing that scares you. This is really my point in what I'm saying here is I'm just so on fire and so excited about this doing this one woman show. It got to the point where I was, talking with one of my coaches, my business coaches about, well, what's the next offering and what's the next thing I'm marketing and what's the next thing I'm selling? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. And they're like, well, then what are you wanting to do right now? I said, what I want to do is just write my show. Like I don't want to do all those other things right now. And so permission granted for me to do that, for me to write my show and perform it, and for you to do the same. So here's my challenge for you this week. Don't wait, because maybe this has inspired you. Do the thing that scares you, right? Send the pitch, raise your rates, share the post, make the video, say yes to an opportunity that makes your stomach flip, invite someone out and like a new friend out to do something. Go on a date, take your spouse on a date, do something new, take a class you've been wanting to take, and painting class, a music class, a dance class, whatever it may be, because fear isn't failure, right? It's feedback that you're evolving and we want to evolve to be satisfied in life. And so, for every entrepreneur, high achiever, leader listening, please, your next level of confidence and creativity is really waiting on the other side of discomfort. So, thanks for listening to this episode of the Dynamic Women podcast. Remember, fear isn't failure, right? It's feedback that you're expanding because you can evolve and stay comfortable at the same time. That's where the magic happens. Fear doesn't mean you're off track, it means you're alive, awake. Awake. I'm definitely awake and in motion. Just do that thing that scares you, not because you're fearless, but because you're ready for what's next and you want that growth, right? Because growth will always ask for just a little bit of fear. And that's how you know that it's worth it. So if this message spoke to you in any way, let me know. Send me a message, Diane@DianeRolston.com or on your favorite social platform. And make sure you share this with another powerful woman or a woman who you think needs to just step into something that maybe scares her a little bit, who's ready to grow, who wants to have more courage. And don't forget to subscribe so that you will never miss one of our episodes. Until next time, stay dynamic. Bye.